the in-between, the nexus of our lives, of our reality. So often when we look back at our lives, we look at the milestone moments, these plateaus and footprints that we leave behind as markers of our life's journey. That only makes up about 20 to 30%. The rest is defined and connected by the in-between. Everything that takes place in between. And this is where the art of the spiritual warrior comes in. We can develop the tools and the means to identify all these different elements in our world and become the alchemists of our lives, peering through the nexus and the prism of our multiverse, and drawing forth all that we are into the present now. Oh, welcome back. It's another Friday at the Wolf's Den. Jeez, it's Friday again. These weeks are just zipping, zapping, and I tell you, this time thing, time, what a fickle thing. I tell you, out of all of my encounters and studies and experiences and just, stack them all up, the only way that I can explain how humans have been conditioned to look at time is it's poop, stupid. It's very, very crazy. So that being said, it's been another week and we're here, and time has been interesting. Has anybody else been feeling that? Throw it up in the comments if you've been having some interesting time experiences, time with Father Kronos and the tick-tock of life. Hi. Hi, welcome back. So we're going to talk a little bit about time today. We're going to talk a little bit about our perception of it. We're going to talk about, I think we're going to talk a little bit about belief structures around time, because that affects our perception of time. And if I'm feeling it, I may, and depending on where we're at, by the time, I get off my soapbox, we may start to get into the elements. So even saying it today, I think I'm just going to leave that for a little seat at the end. So let's just jump right into time. Hi. Time, TikTok, time, minutes, seconds, hours, days. I tell you, every time I've looked beyond our current scope of how we perceive time, how we count time is a much better way of looking at it, because the counting of it sets up the belief structure of our perception of time. So the way that we count time is very, very restrictive, and it's literally meant out of like a corporate schedule mentality, when there has not been an instance where I've encountered something beyond human that doesn't look at time as simply cycles, like a progression of something continuing to move forward throughout its expression of creation. Hello, Cindy. Welcome. There's a lot of times, and I think I've talked about this in past shows, there's a lot of times where some beings that I've encountered will count their cycles as when every single one of their cells duplicates, and when that duplicates, it starts a new cycle, and then the duplication process begins again. Sometimes it's based off of star cycles and rotations and things like this. So I don't dismiss that there is a passage of experience, absolutely, but the whole seconds, hours, minutes, days, weeks thing, it's very misunderstood is a great way to put it, because the best way to look at the progression of an experience is we can go back to how ancient civilizations used to line up certain ceremonies and certain rites of passage throughout people's lives with certain celestial events and certain biological features, whether it's puberty, whether it's a certain test of maturity level that they have to go through. There was a bunch of different ways of doing it, but it was usually in alignment with some form of cosmic schedule, and not, we'll fit you in on Wednesday at 2 p.m. You get what I'm saying on like corporate thing on that? It fits according to how businesses and corporations operate, and how they want an employee standard and a subservient standard to operate within that system. But the true passage of time is simply about cycles, simply about being in alignment with things. Tango, everyone says, where did the time go? I'm still trying to find out where it came from, right? So, and this is an interesting question. Where did time come from? Our version of it, Gregorian calendar and stuff, we can trace that back probably to certain banking systems. Cheered by Cannabis. Hello, hello. Pleasure to see you. Gregorian calendars, banking systems, old, not just Roman, but old empires put all of this stuff in play originally because they understood it was systematic, it was formulaic, it was a monopoly, and they can control that monopoly. But it has truly nothing to do with just the passage, not nothing, very little to do with the passage of time. Sometimes we get lucky and the Gregorian calendar will align itself with the cosmic calendar, but this is where we'll get really confused when it comes to certain things like prophecy, or even seeing into the future ourselves, being psychics and seeing into the future on our own. Not only are we peering through the multiverse and peering through a given instance of frequency and vibration of where we are during that gaze through the multiverse, which can shift. But there's this thing about looking into certain events that play out in the future, even if the frequency is in alignment with that event taking place, and trying to figure out when that's going to happen based off of frequency, and then trying to count that with numbers, with hours and seconds and days. It's just, it doesn't usually work like that, because frequency and energy has to be in alignment for the event to take place. The more and more that shifts, it's going to create some turns in the road rather than it just being a very direct course of action. So it doesn't mean that just because something hasn't happened within a certain time frame of when we were feeling that it was supposed to happen, because again, prophecies can shift, multiverse can shift, our frequency can shift, but when we feel it and it's truly in alignment with that anchoring of where we are, and we know that. Hello, good to see you, Bob. We can quantify that event taking place only by the alignment of the frequency, not by counting the hours and the minutes and so on and so forth. And then we have to also even look at the instances of when we go into meditative states, for example. Right. And they understood this with certain sacred infrastructure, certain temples that were built in very, very specific ways. I'm pretty sure I talked about this on a call with Norma and Tanya at one point. Some of them were built within a holographic 3D design and outlay of what a cross would be if we took the two-dimensional of a cross and then we made it 3D printed and made an infrastructure out of it. They did that specifically because that dimensional outlay was a vortex when you would input certain vibrations and certain frequencies throughout the halls, and you had the right resonantial components to receive and to pick up an alignment and synchronize with those frequencies. And they would find during certain rites of passage and certain ceremonies, when they would put people into the center point of totality with all of that vortex and all of that vibration running in that specific infrastructure, time for them would be eliminated as a concept. It would be completely omitted as a concept. They would have very much less struggle doing things like out of body experience and ethereal journey and interdimensional journeying. The frequencies themselves are based off of how we will experience our reality, right? We can't see outside of a certain band of frequency. We can't hear outside of a certain band of frequency. We can't touch, we can't interact outside of a certain band of frequency. So if we want to change that experience, we change our frequency. It's a simple formula, it's not easy. Following the formula goes back to certain things like when they would do chants and mantras, holding those tones within the body, within the vocal cord. Oh, learning stuff like throat singing. Oh, so powerful throat singing. um, these resonances and these vibrations and these frequencies, when held and continuously carried throughout the entire body, that tone will create a frequency shift in the DNA itself, which then affects the reality we experience. This is how we actually shift through the multiverse. It's an incredible concept and an incredible premise. So learning about certain tones, learning about certain tonalities, learning about your tonalities, because your soul frequency as an extension from higher dimensions coming down here into this unique form of who you are right now holds a certain tone, it holds a certain frequency that gives you the alignment of which reality you're experiencing. So knowing your own tone allows you to know thyself. It allows you to see through the different tonalities that we're being presented with, the different frequencies that we're constantly being presented with, billions of times throughout any given day. It's a shift that we do so seamlessly that we don't even realize that we're doing it, and time becomes almost irrelevant in those concepts because we get lost in the moment of the now, and we're able to just experience and let things flow, which is truly all that we have when it comes to time, is the right now. The past exists right now and the future exists right now. The only difference between the two and how we're experiencing it in the right now is a conscious choice, a frequency vibration, which is why when we hold on to certain memories really, really tight, really close, and we get into a frequency shift with those past events that already took place. No, they're happening right now. They're still, it's in the quantum. It's happening in the right now. The only thing that stops us from experiencing it is, again, transferring that consciousness. But when we're anchored to those memories, notice how quickly your emotional state shifts. Your whole state of experience in that reality shifts because of how tied we are to that moment, and we're bringing it to the right now. How do we know our own tone? Tango, great question. Personally, what I did is I found a lot of different sacred tones, and you can look them up online. Different cultures across the entire world are going to have a different library of tones available. So start listening to different culture sacred tones, finding out which ones you resonate with just by listening to, and then start practicing them. Actually start singing and playing with the tones that you resonate with the most. What I found personally when I started doing this was when I hit the ones that my body basically melted away. It's almost the only way that I can put it. When I would hit and carry these certain notes, my whole frequency, my whole being would fall into that vibration, and it would just become part of that vibration. That's how I knew that's my tone, that's my frequency. And when I started to expand, and by the way, this is only a relatively new practice since I went through the quantum a little bit before the quantum shift, but After the quantum shift, I've been putting it more and more into play because I understand the power of that frequency and tonality much, much more, and the application of it as well. So I've been understanding my own tone, my own frequency, and my own resonantial state within that. Because again, knowing thyself, when I feel that things are shifting around me away from that chosen state, I can go, nope, I want to bring that back. And what I end up doing is I call out my tone, and I'll go into that resonantial state, and I will allow it to come out from the inside out. And then I will literally state the reality that I wish to experience at that point. Absolutely. Cured by cannabis. Such great, amazing things are happening for us and through us is one of the other really, really important things. That it all happens because of you. Your experience doesn't exist without you. Take that, honor that. That is so, so huge. And everything that happens for you will begin to happen through you. And then that gets shared with the entirety of creation, which is really what we're here to do. Experience, give back. Experience, give back. So yeah, that's kind of where we were at with yes, tango, your tone, your tonality. Yes. So calling out your tone, stating your reality after that, if you feel the shift happening. And what I do with that, what I mean by calling out the reality is I make a generalization. Like I pick almost a header. I pick one thing that I know will have a massive ripple effect. So if I'm looking at, oh, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, what is a key factor between a linking factor between all of those things? And when I figure out what that main thing, that main link in the chain in all of those ripple events is, that's what I will pick my reality to be. I don't just do it for like, oh, I want chicken nuggies for dinner tonight. No, I can make chicken nuggies whenever the hell I want chicken. I'm a grown ass man. I will make chicken nuggies if I want chicken nuggies. I'm sorry, I got a little upset there. Just wanted to be clear on that. Okay. Whew. So when it comes to stating your reality, pick something big that you know will have a large ripple effect and will cover and be a main factor in so many other events that will just simply take place as a part of living in that reality. It's an interesting concept to allow ourselves to start to expand into, and the way that we do this is through our beliefs and the way that we structure our beliefs. Because, and I put an interesting post out on Facebook about this the other day. Is the reality that you're experiencing influencing your beliefs, or are you allowing your beliefs to influence the reality that you experience? It's an incredibly interesting concept to ask ourselves, because so often we don't even look at the majority of our beliefs as anything tangible or external. We think of them as simply a part of who we are. That's just who I am. And while you believe it, yes, it is who you are, but only if you believe it. And it's an incredible power, because it means all the accountability comes right back. All of it comes right back to us in that moment, meaning there isn't an experience beyond what we believe ourselves to be capable of experiencing. This goes for positive and negative. And when we have things unexpectedly start to happen, which, universe is kind of indifferent when it comes to how the events are going to lay out. It's just based off of our frequency. If everyone got to tip the scales in their favor whenever they wanted to, there would be no balance in anywhere in all of creation. There would be no balance. So it has to be indifferent with the way it presents the experience of life. The only way that we get to tune into a preference of that is by frequency because it's all available all at once. So when we have too much stuff happening unexpectedly, or what we feel is like outside of alignment for where we may be consciously telling ourselves or trying to convince ourselves of, is maybe a better way to put it. um it's because we're not consciously aware of those frequency shifts that we're putting out, and knowing that it's something that we're believing that's happening, or a belief that already structured within us, that we see as it's who we are, that is allowing those experiences or that frequency and vibration of experience to come into our observation and our engagement. I can look back on this for myself on so many instances, all these different times where I was taking in so many teachings and doing so much work for myself, that I was just under the assumption, oh, doing all of this is going to lead me to the outcome. Just feel and sense something big is about to happen. Not sure, but something big. Stay on that. We'll get back to that. So, like I said, I had this belief structure that by simply just doing the work, all the turnaround was going to happen. But there's layers, there's nuances to it, and on top of that, I was then putting the accountability on the teachings that I was receiving, not on myself applying the teachings, or excuse me, realizing them as a part of how I'm expressing and engaging, excuse me, with myself as a part of creation. So the belief structures that and this went for how I would get caught up in negative cycles of things as well. Oh, all this stuff's happening to me, blah, blah, blah. There was a belief structure of some kind that was tied to that negativity, whether it was a belief structure about romantic partners, work, family stuff, how I saw friends and being social, any of that. Like there was I'll take it right back. Let's tell story time. It's story time. Um, grade 12, grade 11, grade 12. Grade 11, I started messing around trying to be a little street hooligan back in Calgary, because I went through severe bullying in junior high, to the point of where I almost myself when I was 14, because that was the belief system that I had allowed to influence the reality that I was experiencing. So I got bullied really, really bad. By the time I hit high school, I I started to put on an image, right? Because my whole thing growing up as an adolescent was I was very, very outgoing. I wanted to go make new friends. Those cool kids that, would make fun of me, I would go and put extra effort to being their friend, because that was just caring and compassionate me. I wanted to do that. It got to a point where when high school hit and all the puberty and all of this big, big changes started happening, um, that was just not on the table. It was barely flying before, but it just wasn't going to fly in high school. So I had to switch that image, and I found that putting on a tough guy image was the way that I found protection. Um, I started dressing like a thug, and I got into hip hop, and I started rapping, and I was the white guy that rapped in high school. And I used to shit, not gonna lie, I still am pretty good. Let's just be real. It's one of my favorite art forms and creative outlets for expression for me. So I've kept it all of these years, and I'm still damn good. But back then, it was a character for me. But I was so ingrained in this belief structure that I'm protected here, and I'm getting something out of this, and I can earn people's respect by doing this. All of these beliefs had me anchored so deeply into playing this character that I just thought it was who I was. And I would put on this heavy street accent and I wore my pants down, just the baggiest triple XL clothes that I could find. And I used to walk with this little, the limp and the gangster lean and all of that. And it was this huge show that I would put on because of my belief structures. Not just did I believe that it was going to garner me respect, it was going to protect me and keep me safe from all of that, but I had believed that I wasn't worthy to just show up as who I was. So I had to be someone else. I had to allow something else to take the form of me. Because I promise you, all that street crap when I went home got pretty much put to bed. I would go upstairs and I'd start playing my Pokemon games and I'd start watching cartoons. And like this whole image just went back to being me. And this regular, loving, compassionate, caring individual that just wanted to engage with the world. I've just, but because of those beliefs, that person only existed where they were safe, literally, because I didn't create the space within myself to allow myself to fry. I didn't believe in myself. So the only space that I could let me be me was in solitude, was in the shadows. And that lasted for, oh God, years. Probably like at least 8 years, I want to say, coming out of like from the beginning of high school, it didn't start. That started going more into grade 12, I want to say, because just more and more crap. I threw myself into the street activities. And although I wasn't in a gang, I certainly could have been misconstrued as such. And I threw myself into some stuff that I didn't enjoy and I certainly wouldn't have chose to do. And at the time I built it up to be way, way more than I think it was. But the opportunities and the circumstances that I was involved in a lot of instances, had zero alignment with who I truly was on the inside. None of it was who I actually felt like I was. It was just a place where I thought I had acceptance. I believed that I had acceptance, and I had built a structure of belief of, well, once I start rapping and I get famous from rapping, I don't have to go so hard on things. I can just be me and let that get, so I had this belief that doing what I was doing was going to lead me to an outcome instead of just living in the outcome that I was expecting and allowing the series of events to reflect that frequency. But you're young, you don't know about that stuff, and shit that I didn't even know anywhere near what I know about beliefs now, and how we structure them in such this way, where our whole reality, all of the experiences, the way that the series of events lays itself out for us is based off of your frequency, because your experience doesn't exist without you. That's simple. It's not easy, it's simple. Um, so where did that lead me to after all of this? Well, it led me to subconsciously going into the old modalities of solitude towards enlightenment, I guess. Um, After a certain while, because during all of that time of street activity and hooliganity and shenanigans, um, I was doing drugs and I was drinking a lot. Like I would wake up in the morning and I was cracking a beer before I'd hit the toilet at first thing in the morning, and I was just not caring for myself by any means, shape, or form. So it led me to a point where when I stopped doing that stuff, I stopped doing hard drugs and drinking that heavily when I was 18. And from about 18 to 20, I would still go out and drink and I would still go out and party and stuff. I just didn't do hard drugs. And when I was 20, I went out and there was a girl that I kind of had a thing with for a little while. It didn't really evolve into anything, but I really, really liked her and I wanted to get into dating with her. And there was, because I didn't believe in myself and I didn't have any structure about myself, I didn't know how to engage while going out on dates. I didn't believe in myself. So how could I present myself to anyone? So there was this weird dynamic where there was an attraction, but we didn't know how to proceed with anything with it. And I made moves a few times, but it was always like a playing hard to get thing. And I remember it was April 2010, and I went out for her birthday, and we went out to a club, and I don't know why, I just didn't eat that day, and I was drinking, like drinking. And we were having a good time for a while, but halfway through the night, because I had nothing else in my system and I just kept going, I got like one of the worst blackout drunks that I had been in my life. One of the two, maybe three, but definitely top two instances of blackout. And I made a fool out of myself, like just a dummy. And I remember waking up the next day saying, I never want to do that again. I don't know what it was. And you know, when you're young and you go through the drinking and you're hungover, I swear I'm never drinking again. And then you do it the same way 4 days later when the weekend comes around. But it was a difference because I had already made those types of shifts when I quit the hard drugs. And it was a very, very similar instance of that, of this was a belief in me that was changing, that I don't I don't want to do this anymore. I truly believe I get no value out of doing this anymore. And that belief shifted how I approached alcohol since April 2010. I have not gotten blackout drunk since. I still drink, but I drink very casually now. I very rarely even get drunk. I have fun. I cut loose when the time calls for, but most times I very much keep my composure when I drink, and I just enjoy alcoholic beverages from time to time. And that's so seldom. It's I don't keep alcohol in my house on average. I think I've bought one 12 pack of beer in the last year for myself is accurate. I would say I bought one 12 pack of beer, and that's it. Like I enjoy it from time to time when the mood calls. So having that belief system inside of me, that belief structure of it doesn't add value. It's something that I can simply just choose to do if I want to or not. It allowed me to have a different relationship with it. So from there, because I wasn't mature with that understanding yet. Hold on, Cindy. I was called a freak in high school because I never fit in with the popular crowd. I went with the opposite of the crowd. Yeah, that's a majority of gifted individuals find themselves in the opposite crowds when it comes to those points of their lives, because those are very confusing points, and everyone is in such a high angst adolescent judgmental scrutiny of themselves. Of course that's how they're going to reflect and project that out to the rest of the world, right? So there's absolutely no identification that needs to be linked with how they were projecting, simply the way they were treating themselves in that point of experience. um yeah, time, place, moderation. Thank you, Cured by Cannabis. Yes, absolutely. It's truly all about learning that time, place, and moderation. So when I went to the early stages of these belief shifts and how it was affecting my behavior, I wasn't super mature with them yet. So I had to take a little bit more drastic measures to make sure I didn't put myself in situations where um my choices would be tested, basically. Quitting hard drugs is not an easy thing. And shifting a lifestyle from being very, very open to just drinking to not wanting that anymore, and literally wanting to shift the system. I wanted to avoid certain environments, certain crowds. And basically what I ended up doing was I would go to work and I would go home, and I would go to work and then I would go home, and I wouldn't go out. I would stop hanging out with a lot of my friends. When I would go out with my friends, it would be in like bursts, and then I would go back home right away. I never stayed out overnight anywhere. Um, and it was an interesting thing because I also worked in kitchens and restaurants and bars a lot of the time. So doing that shift at that point in my life, it had me it had me have to calibrate myself in a very interesting way, because again, I would have those times where, yeah, maybe I would want a beer after work, and maybe that would extend for, let's say, 3 days in a row. I would want a beer after a long shift of working in a hot kitchen and cooking for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours in some instances. And sometimes longer when the career got more extensive, but that's a different story. In these periods of learning how to calibrate that, it was never this big thing of, okay, you can only have three and then you have to stop, because I would put all that energy into the fact of the drink itself, and whatever the decision making process was of wanting to avoid something. And the more energy that I would put towards even wanting to avoid something, it was still tuning me into the frequency of that being a part of my experience of reality. So really what I ended up doing is, when I felt like having a beer, I'd have a beer. When I didn't feel like having a beer, I wouldn't sit there and mull over, do I want a beer? It's been a few days. How many beers have I had? Like, it just wouldn't be a thought. It just wouldn't come to me. I would allow my body and allow my frequency to align itself with what it wanted to experience. And again, this was a subconscious thing. I wasn't consciously putting this into effect, but I was very aware of the days that I just didn't want a beer. I would just go about my day. And one of the big things that made a difference for me to get through all of this, the hard drugs, the I don't want to say alcoholism, but alcohol dependency maybe is a good way to put it, was marijuana, which I still use to this day, every day. I love marijuana. Marijuana and cannabis is one of the best medicines that I personally have ever encountered, not even just from my own experiences, but from all the observational experiences that I've ever seen. And I know Cured by Cannabis is just ear to ear smiling as she's hearing about this right now. But yes, cannabis is spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, it covers it all. I don't know of very many medicines that are that well rounded. And then you can take it to the hemp factor of how versatile just the physical product of hemp is. It's an incredible thing. So, and I found um the value for me. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. The value for me holding on to cannabis when I was going through those big shifts was it allowed me to fall out of that judgmental state, that super high stress and anxiety point of overthinking everything, and then not being able to let go of certain things. And I know it's almost opposite for certain people who have anxiety when it comes to using cannabis. And all I can really say is there's a lot of research and there's a lot of variables that can assist in the mitigation of those types of responses when using cannabis. But for the most part, it is for me especially, it is such an anxiety reliever, it is such a stress reliever, it's a grounder, it's a focuser. It lets me just, there's a little chemical in there that's called fuck it. And it doesn't matter what's going on in your world. Have a little bit of cannabis. Fuck it. And it's fine. And I mean that jokingly, but also a little bit literally as well. Because there's sometimes where we're putting way too much emphasis on things. Like I was just talking about manifesting something that we don't want to have happen, but we're still drawing it into our frequency of experience. There's too many instances where we get caught up in that crap and we need just a little bit of fuck it in our lives. Just a little bit. I'm not saying throw your all your inhibitions to the wind and completely lose sight of who you are as a person and the direction you want to go in life, but truly understand that there is a freedom in just letting go of the constraints that we normally keep ourselves confined in, which is the high stress, the high anxiety, the over subscription to things and stuff and schedules in our world, when you can just sit back and smell the roses a little bit and just enjoy the present moment. It doesn't mean that you stop going, but even going back to the whole concept of time, it allows you to be more in the present now and just take in the present now a lot more. See the clarity of things that are around you, that you may be too distracted and moving too fast, or you're too busy to see. It's definitely a very, very powerful medicine in my world. So this all coming back to belief structures again, because I want to really I want to touch on where I'm at with this, because it's a very it's a very nuanced thing when we start to look at our own belief structures, and we look at how ingrained they are with, again, how we hold ourselves as people, as individuals. Well, that's just who I am. Well, that's because that's how you believe yourself to be. There is I'm discovering the immense infinite freedom in the tangibility of what my belief structures are, while at the same time being able to know what my frequency, my higher tonality is, so I don't really fall out of alignment with myself and feel like I'm experiencing something that shouldn't be happening to, for, or through me. And it really does all boil down to our beliefs, because again, are your beliefs influencing your experience of reality, or are you allowing reality to influence your beliefs? And it's a formulaic thing. Even when we look at manifestation or the law of attraction, and great starting points, fantastic formulas to follow and sciences to get into, when we start talking about restructuring our vibration on literally a DNA and a cellular level, it's not about manifesting anything or calling something in and attracting something. You become the frequency of experience, and universe presents itself within that bandwidth. I mean, the simplicity of it, with how hard we've worked and the convolution of how confusing we've made things, and it really just boils down to, what do you believe? And when you hit that ability to tangibly shift what you believe your reality of experience to be, it goes from the inside out. And when I talk about the formula of it, originally when we're looking at things in the early stages of this, and again, it's so important to go through the early stages, we have to do that first. When we're looking at it, we're looking at, okay. Law of attraction, power of manifestation, learning about all these concepts. Awesome. I need to manifest this. I'm going to attract this in my world. And I'm learning about how to do all of that. Oh gosh, I just saw an 1111. Oh, my emotions are so activated. Oh, I believe that it's going to happen now. Formula breakdown. We extend outward. asking for something that we don't feel is in our field of experience already. Step one. Step two, we wait for some result to show up to then hit step three, which is activating our emotional state, which then anchors us into our beliefs. Step four. So the beliefs come last at the very end of that formula. Flip it, flip the formula. Believe internally on a cellular level. I already am experiencing this. This is my reality. Insert reality here. Believe it, state it. This is my experience. There is no room for doubt. There is no room for worry because everything within that reality is covered. It's taken care of. It's presented to you. It's accessible. No room for doubt and worry. You have to believe. Unwaveringly believe. And when you hit that unwaveringly point, you feel it. Emotionally, you feel it because you have now just shifted your whole cellular structure into a new frequency. And ooh, everything I just stated is available to me right now and I didn't see it before. Yeah, that feels different. Then the results will align themselves based off of that frequency. The results show themselves in accordance with that frequency. There's no getting around it. They have to. It's universal balance at that point. You can't experience anything outside of your frequency. The results will act accordingly. I promise you. I guarantee it. There's no way to avoid it. So the formula even becomes simpler at that point, too, because now we only have 3 steps. You believe it, it shifts the emotional state because of the belief. The results and the events and scenarios of the experience have to be in alignment with that frequency. It's the only way you'll experience them. This formula is very, very conditioned in a variety of ways. And the way to really start to enable it and put it into play is break free of the chains of judgment of self, of your beliefs not only make you up exactly who you are, because that's a tangible thing when it comes to your belief structure. Who you are is a band of light that is being shown through dimensional filters and being cast in this unique form for the experience of creation. That's who you are. That's who all of us are. The way that that form takes its uniqueness each and every day, each and every waking moment is based off of a structure of beliefs which align our frequency to the experience of reality. Free ourselves from the restraints of being told what our beliefs are supposed to mean, what they have beyond ourselves as far as a reflection is on somebody else's belief structure. I can't be accountable for that. I can only be accountable for my resonance, my frequency. I cannot be accountable for how they believe that experience to be affecting them. Now, this doesn't mean that you have no ripple effect in the shared dimensional plane of third dimension. We're here side by side with a whole bunch of other people sharing the same plane of existence that they're having their experience of reality on as well. It just means that your frequency, your band, your experience doesn't exist without you. So the way that it comes through for you is going to be based off of that belief structure. The way that it ripples to somebody else is going to be based off of their belief structure. Beliefs are very powerful, and this is where they found the monopoly of religions that come into play, because they understood the structure of those beliefs could quite literally motivate entire populations of people to act outside of how they were raised, what their environment normally called for, outside of anything that we want to consider as nature or nurture argument. This is a conditioning aspect. That's to me neither nature nor nurture. That's brainwashing. Like there's a conditioning, there's a control mechanism that went into place within certain systems that understood how belief structures actually motivate reality and how they will get people to do things. COVID and 2020 is a great another example. Like there's countless examples of this through history. We don't even need to go through the history books. Go through your personal history books. Just go through your memory banks and see which memories you still believe in so deeply that are affecting how you experience your reality now and influencing that in the right now, because that's all you have. All you got is the right now. Beliefs. Believe it. My goodness. So, is that it? Is that all I want to talk about on beliefs today? I think so. I think that's all I'm going to talk about beliefs today. And part and parcel, or sorry, point and case, not part and parcel. Point and case. Another instance of this that I've just put into work in my own world, not just with. I've been using this a lot over the last while, and I've been seeing results like this in some instances. It's an incredible shift, and I'm taking having certain things just be taken care of because of the frequency alignment. There's no worry, there's no doubt, there's no, okay, I did that and I shifted into it, but now how do I make it happen? No, it's already happened. If I'm in the frequency, it's already happened. The series of events just got to play themselves out. That's it. So I got to just stay out of the way and be present for the series of events. So as I've been doing this, one of the most recent ones that I've did, which is why I'm a little extra raspy today and I'm drinking a little extra water. I just quit smoking again because I've had an off and on relationship with both commercial tobacco and traditional ancient tobacco is a great way to put it. Um, the commercial stuff I used as, a bit of a crutch is a good way to put it when I was growing up in my youth, and I quit a couple times. The longest stint was I don't know, 5 years or something like that. It was a good stint. It was a good long while. And then I started smoking a little bit again after that, and then I quit for a number of years. When How long did I quit for? I think I quit for 2 years when I moved out to BC. Yes, it was 2 years. Excuse me. It was just no, it was just over 2 years. So I'd quit commercial tobacco. And then when I came out here, David Piltz ended up introducing me to this really ancient tobacco that he uses in pipe ceremonies. And it was discovered, I call it the Iceman strain, because it was discovered in a frozen or with the discovery of a frozen Iceman. And when they found these tobacco seeds, they had no other relation to any other known seed that was still existing on Earth at that time. So they were, how old? 1,000 years, I think, at that point, 1,000-year-old seed, something like that. So when David was gifted this, it was, I don't know, I think he had the third generation of seeds. They had started rebreeding and recreating new generations of these seeds to bring it back to the world. Yes, thank you, Bob Tango. Yes, we'll get back to that right away here. So the shifting over of that to the relationship of real ancient traditional tobacco was absolutely impeccable, remarkable. It was basically like having a little Caesar's pizza and then going to Italy and trying to throw Italiano pizza. It was just, no comparison. This tobacco, especially being 1,000-year-old strain, something never existing. The taste, the power, the healing capacity of it, it was remarkable. It actually helped cleared up any times that I've used it, it's cleared up any lingering commercial tobacco addiction. Like it just flushes it out of my system. It's a remarkable thing. And then I can just put the traditional stuff down and be like, okay, that batch is done. I'm not smoking. And then I just stopped smoking again. So, anyways, when I went through a big transformation last year, I started smoking again as a coping tool. It was grounding me, and I was getting a relationship with nature and things, yada, 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 a whole bunch of reasons. Just recently, last night, I went to bed, going to bed saying, I'm going to shift my frequency. I'm just not smoking anymore. I haven't wanted to smoke, and I've been not smoking since. So that was the big shift, and being able to do this on command and with conscious awareness, it is one of the most powerful tools that we can ask to develop. Bob bringing up something big, doesn't know what's happening, but something big is happening. So, what are we talking about here? Beliefs, belief structures. Having the belief of that is already triggering an emotional state inside of you and Bob. I'm assuming, don't want to, speak for you, but I can certainly speak for myself when I've had those feelings and I go, oh, I believe something really big is happening, and my whole emotional state and inside goes into alignment with that belief. The more you consciously anchor into that frequency every single day, multiple times throughout the day, and stay in that frequency, that will be the experience. That belief will absolutely lay out the series of events to be within that bandwidth of frequency. The finicky parts here are when we get distracted, we get lost in thought or emotional upheaval of stuff that we didn't deal with, or belief structures that are linked to any of that stuff happening. It shifts our frequency, and it shifts our conscious awareness of where we're holding our frequency, which then again stops that experience from a straight line path to doing a whirly wobby, and it takes a lot longer to happen. Absolutely, there is no fear involved. There's no fear, there is no worry, there is no doubt. When we believe it, it's already happened in the quantum reality, in the multiverse. It's already happened. Everything already is, because all that there is the right now. Everything is in existence, all simultaneously and instantaneously. That's fifth dimensional energy. Tapping into that awareness to bring it down to the third dimensional experience now is what we're attuning ourselves to do. Believing that structure of reality so deeply that it just is allows the events to play themselves out in accordance. Tanya Powell, yes, it's a collective shift, in my honest opinion, and just holding space for it. 100%, couldn't agree more. This is part of it, right? Because again, if we're all doing this individually, right, every single one of us is able to shift our own reality, our own experience of it. What happens when we all do it to the same reality, to the same belief all at once? Is that how the control state's been getting the outcomes of reality they've been wanting for the last decades to centuries? I think so. Nail, hammer, head on it. Yeah, that's how it. This is how it's literally worked as the control state, because they understood, if it works for religions, this will work for politics, this will work for financial, this will work for community, this will work for everything, this will work for the entire freaking world. So what they ended up doing is created a system where they had us believe in that structure so much that they weren't controlling shit. We were allowing it to happen. We all focused on one structure of belief so deeply that became the collective reality. So if we can start to understand this as an individual gift, shifting it to the collective consciousness, this is how we raise the collective plane of shared experience. Oh, sorry. We just got to the top of the hour. Yeah, I'm leaving you there, cliffhanging it, dangling you. Come back next Friday, y'all, because we're going to keep this up. It's going to be some great talks. I don't know where we're going to go from here. Terry, you got to go. Awesome. I got to go too. I'm cliffhanging you. I got to because uh, um, I just want you to come back. I don't like being lonely. Love you guys. I'm going to see you next week. Keep shifting out there. Check your frequency and watch the results fall into accordance. See you guys next time.